So we left off with learning about these arrays and the variables. Now the next step that we're going to take into learning in another language construct in PHP is that we're going to learn about conditionals. Now conditionals are used for defining paths. Paths in the sense like the program will have several options to execute before it actually goes into some form of running into something. I mean, suppose like we are looking for a certain type of value in an user's input. The user might type into something. We were expecting like suppose we are asking for the user's first name. So the user's first name can be several types. The first one can have capital letters, or the second one can have a capital letter at the beginning of the letter. The third option can be something like it's all in lowercase form or in small letters. So these are the three options the user can use to type in his first name. So if any of them is correct, then we tell the program to do something like take the user to the next field where he will type in his last name. If any of them, if the output, the user's input does not match with my expectation, then I will ask the program to ask the user in terms to retype his first name. Otherwise I won't take him to the second field where he will be typing his last name. So the basic idea is that if an user gives me a value, if an user types in his first name, then I will check that user's first name with my expectation. I will check that his name contains either all capital letters, his name contains his name might contain all lowercase letters, or the small letters, or his name might have only one capital letter at the beginning. So if any of them is true, at least one needs to be true, then I will take the user to the next field where he will write his last name. If none of them is true, or if none of them is correct, or if none of the user's input matches with my expectation, then I will ask the user to retype his first name. So when will the user actually type, I mean, when will it not match with my expectation? I mean, the user's value might not match with my expectation, which means that the user might give me something like numbers. Sorry for that. The user might give me something like numbers or alphanumeric value, like it's a mixture of letters and numbers. They might also give me something like a mixture of symbols, like the ampersand, the percentage symbol, then the dollar symbol, then the hash symbol. He might include those symbols in his first name. He might include them along with the letters, the valid letters to type in his name. So if that happens, then I definitely need to ask the user to retype his name, because all the users might not be someone very innocent. He might be here to cause some sort of disturbance on my website. So that's why I need to provide a way to check those values before I can take them into my website and store them behind the scenes in my databases. So conditioning part actually gives me a way to securely take the value from the user and store them in a valid way in my database. So the syntax actually runs something like this. So in Aptena, if you go to Aptena, and let me show that again. If we go to Aptena and if you type if, then you will see three forms of if. The first one is called the ternary operator, and you can see that in here. This is a one-liner actually. This if conditioning happens to be in one line. In the third one is only the if statement, and the third one, this is the second one. Sorry, this happens to be only the if statement. The other one is the else. It includes the else statement. Let me show you the if statement first, then I'll show you the other ones. Now, this is the basic syntax for if. If this is the keyword, we call this special letters that are reserved for PHP. I mean, these are the grammars for this language. So these letters are reserved for PHP, and then it's followed by a bracket. Inside that bracket, you see something like a condition. You need to provide a condition. So as I was talking about, I have a set of expectation, and I will be matching those expectation, each of those expectation in my set, along with the values that I get from users input. So the conditioning part will actually define what will happen once a condition is true inside these brackets. So this first bracket, you need to type in the condition inside this first bracket, and if this condition renders out to be true, then this block will be executed. So let me make this a little simpler for you. We were talking about the expectation, my expectation along with the user's input. Now inside this conditioning part, if I let me erase that off. If inside this conditioning part, I will actually check. Suppose I will actually check that whether the user's input has at least one uppercase letter, or has and obviously not or. The first condition that I will check is that it will at least have one uppercase letter inside the word, or it will have one capital letter inside the word. Like if your name is John, then its spelling is John. Then the first letter is J. That some people might write J in uppercase letter or in capital letter, and OHN in lowercase letters or in small letters. Then I will need to check whether all of them are, alphabets. Suppose if someone enters a number, then obviously I will tell that user that your input is incorrect, your name is incorrect, because a name cannot have a number. A name cannot have a symbol. Symbol means ampersands, percentages, and question marks, all those symbols. So definitely I'll need to check whether the value that the user gives me is contains alphabets only, and it can have at least one uppercase letter. So there would be something like this. If I store, like if I create a variable in here, suppose let me name this as user input name. So try to make your variables, try to name your variables as descriptive as possible, because when you come back later to your script, you might actually forget what is that variable doing, or why did you actually put that variable in here at the first place. So it's important to make your variable names as descriptive as possible, but don't make them too long, otherwise it will be very tedious to type them later in your program. So let's get going. User's input, and let's type like my name. Okay, and then we need to provide the semicolon. Let's save the script, and obviously, okay, now we can work with this user's input. Although this is not the standard way of getting an input, but just for a simple example, I'm showing you that in a more complex, or in a realistic situation, we use something like there is a global variable called post. So we take the name from the HTML form. So the HTML form sometimes have something like this. Let me show you that. It has an input tag, or it has an input element. Inside that input element, you actually include that input element in a form. In a form, you have something like this input element, and you provide a name like this. We can write first name, and this will have a type of text. So although this is just for the sake of the example, you will get something like a form. You will make something like a form with the form tags, and then that form tag will redirect you to a PHP script